Hello and welcome. I am Thomas Edison. Today we'll be discussing the evolution of recorded sound, beginning in 1877 with my invention, the phonographic cylinder, continuing on through vinyl records, cassette tapes, CDs, and finally MP3 players. I hope you enjoy your journey through musical history.
As Thomas Edison told us, he invented the phonographic cylinder in 1877. It produced sounds via wavy lines that were scratched, engraved, or grooved onto a rotating cylinder or disc. Originally, tinfoil was the medium used to scratch the grooves. A stylus traced the lines and vibrates to reproduce the recorded sound waves. Edison's design was improved in 1887 to have wax-coated cardboard cylinders and a stylus that moves from side to side in a zigzag. The graphophone was developed at the same time by the Volta Laboratory team. The two devices were so similar that when Edison started producing popular music of the time onto wax cylinders, they could be played on both the phonograph and the graphophone. Later on, Emil Berliner, another inventor, decided that wax was too soft and began researching alternatives. Berliner made the change to a flat disc. He had two different machines, one for etching and one for playing sound. His new creation was called the gramophone. To make the disc, Berliner would coat a zinc plate with a beeswax and gasoline mix. Using a stylus, he would record sound waves. He then coated the disc with varnish and gave it an acid bath in order to deepen the etched sound waves. This was the first permanent disc record ever made. In order to produce copies of the disc, Berliner had to produce a master record. He was able to create a metal negative record whose grooves would project outward instead of inward. These could be stamped into any material to make copies of the record. Berliner went through several materials for his disc, including rubber. Eventually, he settled on shellac, a material that produced the least amount of defects. Berliner's method of making the metal master to create a vinyl record carried over until the 1950s when electromagnetic tapes became the premier way of recording and listening to music.
Magnetic tape was invented for recording sound by Fritz Blumer of Germany in 1928. He worked for AEG, who then produced the first reel-to-reel in the early 1930s. It was a machine designed to record and play back sound from magnetic tape. Magnetic tape has three basic components: a fine metal oxide powder, a binder, and tape backing. Iron oxide is typically used for the metal powder. It's inexpensive and has great magnetic properties. Chromium dioxide is also used for its higher sound quality, however it's more expensive and has a lower life expectancy. The binder is made of polyester polyurethane. It may undergo hydrolysis over time, leading to deterioration and loss of stored data. The tape backing was originally made of cellulose acetate. Unfortunately, it is not chemically inert and undergoes hydrolysis, leading to deterioration. In the 1960s, polyethylene terephthalate, or mylar, was implemented, which is more chemically stable. Tape heads are made from rings of ferromagnetic material with a gap where the tape contacts it, so the magnetic fields can magnetize the oxide power. If an already magnetized tape is passed beneath the head, it can induce a voltage in the coil. Thus, the same head can be used for recording and playback. In 1963, the compact cassette hit the scene. For the first time ever, the general public could afford to record their own audio. Literally anything you could hear could be recorded. There are multiple uses, from boombox, Sony Walkman, answering machines, even handheld recorders. Over nearly 3 decades, billions of cassettes were produced. Due to the fact that cassettes cannot be easily recycled, most have ended up in landfills. Because it takes so long for plastic to decompose, this can have a negative effect on the environment.
The compact disc, or CD, was first implemented by a number of companies, including Sony and Philips, in the late 1970s. By 1983, the first CD and CD players were released in North America. Data is read off the compact disc by the use of a laser diode. The laser is focused on pits on the surface of the disc, which reflects back to a photodiode. The photodiode analyzes the information and converts it to an analog audio signal. Common compact discs are composed of a base layer of polycarbonate plastic, followed by a thin aluminum layer that is then coated with an acrylic coating. The manufacturing process allows for millions of CDs to be produced per year. The CD is not environmentally friendly in a sense that the discs are not easily recycled, so most of the discs that are no longer in use end up in landfills. The use of the CD had a huge impact on the music industry. The CD made it possible to easily copy music onto one's computer, as well as copy music from one's computer to a CD. The rise in copyright claims rose the popularity of the CD and continued to rise as the use of the CD died and MP3 players began to emerge. MP3 stands for MPEG Audio Layer 3. The first patent for the MP3 encoders in the United States came about in 1996. It was not until 1999 that the first MP3 players were sold in stores. The use of the MP3 player has greatly changed the course of the music industry as we know it. Over the past decade, music stores have slowly gone out of business due to online music purchasing and illegal peer-to-peer downloading of music. Music listeners are able to purchase or download music in MP3 format off of the internet and store it on their iPhone, iPod, or any other MP3 player. At this point, it is unknown what the next audio storage medium will be. One can speculate that it will be some form of digital format. What can be said, however, is that the materials used to store audio have evolved over the 19th, 20th, and 21st century, and that it can be expected to continue to evolve as technology does.